My husband passed away suddenly. It wasn't like he was sick and we were expecting, it was very sudden. I got news that he collapsed at the gym and he passed away. Yeah. So it was very horrible actually, because you were just having breakfast with him 2 hours earlier, and then the next thing you know, you've lost your husband, right? I think the hardest part for me was at the end of the night. Everything was settled and I was alone, and it just suddenly hit me that, oh my God, I've lost my husband. Oh my God, so sorry.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I understand that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cry.
That's okay.
Saying it actually.
I understand that.
I know.
Sorry.
Okay. Saying it actually is difficult.
Like recalling all that.
Yes.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, क्या हाल है आप लोगों के? आई होप ठीक ठाक होंगे। मैं हूँ शमाइला और वुमेंस डे के हवाले से मैं आज इंटरव्यू करने जा रही हूँ अपनी एक बहुत प्यारी दोस्त का। कोई 8 महीने पहले हम मिले और तब से मैं जितनी मर्तबा उनसे मिलती हूँ मैं मज़ीद इंस्पायर्ड हो जाती हूँ। तो चलें मिलते हैं और उनसे बात करते हैं। Hi Gucci, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Okay. I just wanted to say to all women out there, stay strong, stay awesome, and stay safe.
Ta-da!
Okay.
This is her. Women are always a source of inspiration for the family and the society, because Women's Day is just around the corner. I would like to interview a gorgeous lady to explore how her journey has been.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. So, Kuti, would you like to give a brief introduction of yourself and please tell me about your family and what you do?
Okay, thank you. All right. My name is Kuti Biazid. I'm actually a voiceover artist. Okay, and I've been a voiceover artist for 30 years. Okay.
30 years.
Yes. I have 3 children. Their ages are 11, 15, and my eldest is going to be 17 in 2 months' time.
Mashallah, 17.
Yes. And
Look at you.
I've passed the 50 mark already.
Mashallah.
Yes. Alhamdulillah.
Wonderful.
All right, so I'm actually raising my kids now as a single mother. I became a widow 4 years ago when my husband passed away in 2016. Okay, and
So sorry for your loss.
thank you. I'm still working as a voiceover artist, but since my husband's passing, I actually had to do more, because just doing voiceovers alone is not enough. I suppose I need to explain what a voiceover is. Okay, a voiceover artist basically provides the voice narration behind anything that's on audio. So for commercials, documentaries, corporate videos, anything that requires voice, the speaking voice, for broadcast purposes.
Because you have such a beautiful voice, I must say.
Well, thank you, but that's what I do, and
Wonderful.
that's my main line of work. But like I said, ever since I lost my husband, I have had to think of doing more, and I think that journey has really, really made me grow from just being a wife with a job to multiple jobs. Yeah, that's what I've been going through the last 4 years.
So, would you like to share your experience with us? How it had been after you lost your husband?
Okay. My husband passed away suddenly. It wasn't like he was sick and we were expecting, it was very sudden. Okay, we were having breakfast one day. Kids went to school, and 2 hours later, when he was at the gym and I was at a recording actually, I got news that he collapsed at the gym and he passed away. Yeah, so it was it was very horrible actually, because you were just having breakfast with him 2 hours earlier, and then the next thing you know, you've lost your husband, right? And it was really, I remember thinking, I have to keep myself together, because I have these 3 kids. At that moment, right? I have these 3 kids that I have to deal with, so I cannot fall apart just yet. So I had to make sure that I'm steady, because I need to make sure that they are okay, because I need to inform them. I have to take them out from school and break the news to them and all that, whilst all this was happening, and to deal with my in-laws and all that. So a lot of things was going through my head at that time. So I guess it was a bit overwhelming that first day, because there were people, there was, we have to deal with the janazah and everything, right? Do you say the same thing? Okay?
Yeah,
the janazah. Okay. All right. So I had to deal with all that on the first day, and I think the hardest part for me was at the end of the night, when
everything was settled.
Yes, everything was settled, and I was alone, and I made sure that my kids were okay with their cousins who were there all around us, right? And I was alone, and it just suddenly hit me that, oh my God, I've lost my husband. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I understand that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cry.
That's okay.
Because saying it actually,
I understand that.
I know.
Sorry.
Okay, saying it actually is difficult.
Like recalling all that, what
Yes.
happened. So sorry.
It's okay. Because when you suddenly realize that, it's hard, So I think it was the end of the night that I suddenly realized, shit, Oh, sorry, can I say shit?
I used to
Okay. Yeah, so it was the realization only at the end of the night that I had lost my husband. Then I had to start thinking about how to deal with the next few days. So I think I was thinking about matters around me. I didn't want to think so much about my internal feelings so much, because there are things to do.
Right.
There are things to do. There's a household to manage. There are bills. There are liabilities and loans and all these very real problems, or not problems, but very real issues that you have to deal with.
So where was your husband working?
He had his own business. He was an engineer.
So you couldn't take over that?
No, I didn't understand all these things, you see. I was always in my own world, which is the media, the voice recording line, and I really had no experience, because it was a very niche business he was in, right? He was an engineer, an electrical engineer, so it's not like I can go in and handle it. Anyway, so after I was very fortunate to have very supportive in-laws, okay, who understood everything, or understood what I had to deal with. So Alhamdulillah, I think without their support towards me and my children, I would not have been able to handle it as well over the next coming months, So what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so after dealing with all the other issues, the house matters, the cars, the loans, the property, and things like that, I had the help of the office to handle all the paperwork. So that's when I was faced with having to understand all these things. Then I realized, wow, I've been so spoiled. This is one lesson which I think a lot of women must take out from what I'm saying. Okay, you have to be aware and more involved in your house matters, not just the kitchen and the kids, but all the financial aspects of running a home. Because the more you know, the better prepared you are to handle things if things go wrong. And that's when I realized I've been so spoiled. My husband had handled everything, and
I
know, yeah. So this is the one thing that I would want to teach my kids when they are older. Okay. And the other thing is this, earlier when I mentioned that luckily I had a job. So why I say that's important is this. I had my own car, which I paid for myself. I have my own mobile phone with a phone line, which I pay for myself. And I have my own credit card, which I pay for myself. Because before I married, I had all these things. I had a phone, I had a card, and I had a car.
But again, you were a fortunate case because you were educated, you already had a job, and then you could bear your own expenses.
Yes. I mean, of course, I was a voiceover artist even before I married him. So it was something that I did anyway, and that's how I earned my money. Okay. So that's why I was able to. I married quite late, actually. I was in my 30s already. I was 30 when I got married. So,
That's not late.
Yeah, I guess. But in our mother's generation, that's late.
Okay.
Right?
They would have like 4-5 kids by that
correct. So I had my first daughter when I was 32, almost 33, So I had my own car, I had my own card, and I had a mobile phone. And I feel like having these three things, I was able to continue at least the first 6 months of my days without my husband quite easily. Because imagine if you had, let's say, a car that you need to pay loan for. Imagine if your finances were frozen by the bank, if you were financially dependent on your husband. Imagine if your phone was also paid for by your husband and you didn't have anything else. You would be stuck in terms of your mobility, your communication, and your living expenses. So having these three things, I think, is super important for a woman if you are able to pay on your own. So that was quite crucial for me, and I tell my friends who are I suppose financially dependent on their husbands to try and make sure that you know where these things are coming from.
So any piece of advice you'd like to give to the women who have lost their spouses?
I think what I've learned from this experience is how important it is for any woman to be financially independent.
I second that.
Whether you're married or not, whether you're a teenager or in your middle age, or it's important to actually plant that seed in them from young that they need to be financially independent. Okay, so that is my biggest takeaway from this whole experience. I was fortunate enough to still be working when my husband passed away. So I always ask myself how horrible it would be for me if I didn't have that financial independence at the time when he passed away. Even then it was hard for me, but now realizing that my kids are growing older, it's even more important for me to be financially independent for them, because they need to go to college, they need to go to school, and they all have their needs as they grow up, and I have to provide for them. So it's good from the get-go to have a good relationship with your in-laws, with your extended family, and everything else It's not just happily ever after
Yeah.
after you marry, and that is a
You have
lesson
to deal with
also.
it.
Yeah.
So, Kuti, what do you think is an abusive marriage, and how much is too much?
An abusive marriage. I think an abusive marriage, it takes many forms. I believe there's physical abuse, there's also emotional abuse, there's verbal abuse, there's mental abuse. So I think abuse takes many forms. Sometimes neglect is also a kind of abuse. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think physical abuse, that's very common, isn't it? In the world, it's also very silent. Not many women talk about it, but it's there. We all know it's there. So that's one kind of abuse. How much is too much? I think any abuse is not tolerable at all. Any kind of abuse is not tolerable, and I think any small sign of that is definitely not acceptable. I'm sure for those who are in an abusive marriage or relationship,
Especially
it's
those who have
definitely not
kids.
easy.
With kids.
Yes, with kids, that would be, I suppose, most of the time women will stay on because of the children. And I believe a lot of women stay on, and this is going back to what I said earlier about being financially independent, is because they are financially dependent on their husband. That is one of the reasons why they stay on, because they feel that they are not capable to
Take care of their kids.
take care of their kids or themselves, and it's about self-belief at the end of the day. I mean, I'm not a professional counselor, but that's my personal opinion, on why a lot of marriages just stay where they are. And of course, there's also the issue of stigma. They don't want to be, socially outcast because they are seen as running away from their problems or having to reveal to the world that they have been living in an abusive relationship.
Correct.
So that's safe face, the Asians would say. A lot of people, they just don't want to talk about it, or they hide it because they don't want to reveal to the world that they have a problem.
Reveal it to the world and then face it, right?
Yes, correct. Yes. Okay.
So my next question is, do you think the career growth is more difficult for women as compared to men?
I think right now in this time, there's been a lot of improvements. Definitely. I mean, I have a lot of female friends who are in very senior and high-ranking positions, but I think there's also room for more improvements. There are types of jobs where it's male-dominated, and I think there's room for women to enter that workforce in that industry to see growth in that area too. Also, there's also the income gap that I think I was told there's still a disparity between, the female income and the male income. That's what I heard.
Because men are still considered the breadwinners, the sole breadwinners of the family, right?
I think so.
So they pay them more so that they can just run their house.
Correct. So in that sense, it's not fair. So there's room for improvement there.
Correct. Are there any assumptions you would like to change about women?
Assumptions? I think what I would like to change is actually the assumption that women have about themselves, not the assumptions that people have on women. The assumptions that women have on themselves when they are young, that they, when we're growing up, right? You have this assumption that we're gonna have to marry, and then everything is beautiful, and they live happily ever after. No. I always tell my daughters that your life will begin after the wedding. Okay, so when you marry, you have to think about your life together with this person, and it's not about how nice your dress looks. That is not the ultimate goal. you know, and whoever they marry, you're marrying into their family as well, and you're going to have to visualize yourself living daily with this person, and how well you can actually build a home, you know, with this man, right? So that the assumption that I want to try and eliminate is that with love you can conquer all. I think, yes, it's true. I mean, everything starts with love, but there's also other things. There's respect. There's you know, a certain amount of logic as well, you know, and being sensible. Yeah, I think as a parent myself, and I have children, I think of course I would want to see my children married.
Yeah.
But I think the ultimate goal is to see them married to good people.
Good people.
Yes,
yeah.
to people who I know who will look out for them, who will have their back, and are just dependable. Okay, that would be the ultimate goal. Having said that, it is also my goal as a parent to make sure that my own kids are able to take care of themselves. You know, ultimately, in case they do not find their, you know, happily ever after, they should be happy with themselves, knowing that they are able to handle life on their own.
That's the practical
you know?
approach.
Yeah.
So also that's like you marry late rather than marrying a wrong person.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
You're most welcome.
Okay, so I invite my guests who appear in my vlogs to leave few meaningful lines on my notebook.
Okay.
So here it is.
All right. I think the world needs both men and women. It would be a very dull place if there's only women in the world. You know, for society to evolve, you need both men and women, and we cannot live without each other. Only thing is, I think women should not be dependent on just a man in order to survive, and a man should also be aware that a woman is very capable to take care of herself. Inhale courage, exhale fear. Everyone should take care of themselves and learn to love themselves.
Thank you. Okay.